Hey folks, Dr. Mike here, targeting the muscle series. It's the most exercise anyone could be doing in the gym for general fitness. The barbell shrug. That's clearly a lie, but we do have tips. Let's get into the first tip now. All right, folks, tip number one is don't go heavy. There's other folks on the internet that say go heavy, and maybe they're right. But for many people, that's not gonna work super well, including myself. The thing about going heavy is you're paying a really big axial fatigue cost. Your spinal loading is something the body seems to keep track of independently of other kinds of fatigue. And if you load the spine a lot, it just fucks with you a lot. Tons and tons of fatigue carries over into all of your other lifts, especially your leg lifts like squats and hack squats and stuff like that. You get a lot of axial fatigue from your trap training because you're doing this with 1,100 pounds. You're gonna pay for it in every other part of your program. Secondly, if you do ultra heavy weight, you either reduce the range of motion, which we know is not hypertrophic, or your time spent generating tension is so low, it's not adequately stimulative, right? The traps actually like quite a bit of volume. We would suspect that because they're active all the time, keeping your shoulder girdle functioning normally, and they're active in damn near every other lift. Every time you curl, they're active. Every time you lateral raise, they're active. Every back movement, they're active. Even when you do cable tricep pushdowns, they're active controlling things. So you need lots of volume, and the best way to get that is through higher repetitions. Right, so don't put 11,000 pounds on there. My best recommended rep range for shrugs is the 15 to 30 repetition range. Wait for these next few tips where I show you how each rep works. That really multiplies the shit. When we're actually doing the repetitions of the shrug, we're gonna violate every rule of shrugs that you have ever seen. One of the critical things we're gonna go for is a full range of motion and a controlled eccentric. This means that when I do shrugs, I'm not gonna be doing the fucking chicken dance or whatever the fuck people do. I'm sure you've seen it before. What I'm gonna do is shrug up nice and high and then slowly control the eccentric. And then shrug up nice and high and slowly control. And try to hit up there for a second and slowly control. And that slow control is what is stimulating your traps the entire time. That's a huge tip. It's going to humble the living fuck out of you, but luckily you'll have to use a tiny fraction of the weight you normally do. You'll get insane trap pumps, so all is well. Next tip. The bottom is a tough part for the traps. You're weak down here. And if you just skipped here, if you just went from here to here, you could shrug a lot. But the tip here is go super deep and even hang out for a second at the bottom. So you have to start up here, slow, stretch, up, slow, stretch, up, slow, stretch. Fuck all that noise. That big stretch at the bottom, putting a ton of tension when that part of the traps, those fibers anyway, are the most lengthened. Brilliant hypertrophy stuff. It's a real sharp idea. I came up with it even. You should try it. All right, next tip is not on the technique, but on the rest time. If you're doing these shrugs like I just described, super full range of motion, big stretch, etc., sets of 15 to 30 reps are gonna fry the fuck out. And you're gonna have tons of metabolites and it's gonna be like, big trap pump and everything. The thing is, because you're not gonna be using a lot of weight, and because it's such a small muscle technically that's doing anything, the level of systemic fatigue is super low. Cardiovascular fatigue is super low. Other muscles aren't really super contributing, especially if you have wrist straps. When your grip isn't a factor, the whole thing turns into like, this is not a big deal at all, and it just doesn't take a lot of time to rest. So instead of lifting 9,000 pounds and taking 5-minute rest breaks between your shrugs, lift a smaller amount of weight, really good technique, reps, 15 to 30 of them, and then rest until the lactic acid and all that other bullshit metabolite is out. You know what it is, like probably with a lot of trap training, 5 to 15 seconds after you're done with the set, you're kind of good to go. And again, it's gonna cut your reps in a ton. Like you're gonna go from doing 17 reps in a first set to like 10 reps in the second, but those aren't 10 fresh reps. Those are 10 reps with that lighter load, and it's still gonna blast you. And you do multiple sets like that, resting only 10 to 15 seconds between sets, it's gonna fry your shit out. It's not the way to train traps, but it's a way many of you have not tried. And if you try it and you get fucking Terminator traps, let me know. That'll be $5.99. If you have trouble getting a good trap hit from shrugs, there's tons of different exercises to use. But there's at least a few ways to take barbell shrugs and spice them up with some variation so that maybe you can find a hit that works well for you. The first thing is, instead of shrugging with normal hands like this, try a much wider grip. It can be the thing. The other thing is to try to bend over. So normal shrugs, we do here, we do them like that, right? But if you bend over a little bit, just hinge over, what you can do is have shrugs that hit the back of your traps a little bit, as well as the upper part. Totally different hit, bigger stretch. I've used all these variations, mixed them up. Yes, that means even you can bend over and go wide at the same time. Give them all a shot. If barbell shrugs are something that works well for you, these variations will only spice it up. If barbell shrugs don't work well for you, take all these tips, integrate them together, try the bending over, try the wide and try the narrow, see how it goes. Best of luck. Remember, Tom Hardy proved in the movie, I guess, The Warrior, that, or just Warrior, traps are the only muscles that matter for a human male and also for a human female. There you go, trap away. See you guys next time.